AIVANHOV. Part 2. Tunisia, October 29, 2019. Well, dear friends, we will therefore be able to continue our conversation, our exchanges, with the same great pleasure and joy. So who wants to start expressing, questioning, testifying, whatever you want? Sister. If a person wants to talk, sister. I had a dream a few days ago. I was taking a yoga position or something like that, and a great state of peace happened, and in my dream, I disappeared in the dark, and at the same time, I was aware that in my bed, I disappeared at the same time, and the two planes of consciousness disappeared together in the dark. It is their absorption into the black hole, quite simply, that is shown to you in the dream, and which is also lived in the dream, which is, in this case, of course, and I would say not a premonition, but a repetition of the written scenario quite simply. It is something, you see it for those who still dream or have nightmares, in your nights, all situations, in all possible ways, beyond the interpretation of the dream, led you to approach this zero time, in all possible ways. And as you say, through this dream, both consciences, body consciousness, personal consciousness, and supraconsciousness have simply disappeared into the black hole. So why was it related to a position, as you say, of yoga or the body, particular? I don't know. We can continue. You notice as in our exchanges, already for a few weeks, a few months, there are fewer and fewer questions, but more and more, I would say, a need to share your lived experiences, your testimonies, your experiences and your state. There is much more of a resonance on this notion of sharing, of communion, as I was saying. It is quite real and from everywhere. But you have the right to ask questions too, of course. And you're very quiet after the break. Sister. During the break, some people were with questions about Black November. Can you tell us more about it? Oh well, it's a living thing, it's the surprise. Laughter. You can see the turn of events over the past few months and the acceleration of this month of October. Well, it will continue on the same path, I would say on another octave, that is to say that you will attend the events that took place during this month of October, whether at the level of companies, at the level of countries, at the level of the elements, which will take a turn, I would say more and more global. It is as if there were an epidemic of awareness, revolt, revolution, and at the same time, also an increasingly global awareness of the climatic events that are occurring on this earth, so that many, even in denial, can no longer ignore what is happening in some way. Whatever the initial position, whatever the adherence to prophecies, to written texts, in all traditions, of course, that is to say that there is a kind of awareness in this dark November of the imminence of something huge, at all levels of society, climates, geophysical and cosmic activity. There is an awareness, one can say collective, of what is happening. Even if you do not know the precise content of events related to astronomical, cosmic and planetary aspects, you cannot ignore their consequences. They will become more and more palpable, not there to punish you either, but to bring about this form of awareness that something real and planetary, and cosmic, is unfolding everywhere in a synchronous way. Whether it is on the planets of the solar system, whether it is on the sun itself, whether it is on the activity of the elements, such as the activities of countries and societal aspects, quite simply, but also as individuals in your lives. Earlier, we talked about this kind of haste, about serving others in this way, and in order to unveil and reveal. Well, it will be more and more pronounced, even on an individual basis. What you resisted by a certain form of ignorance in the establishment of a gape, will be shown to you in an increasingly direct and more insistent way, not necessarily suffering, but at the level, I mean, of the events that occur in your own life and in your environment, I would say, the closest and most intimate, alongside the aspect that I set global. And it is this simultaneity of what is global and apparently individual or close that will raise questions about the meaning of all this, that is to say that the phase of denial of the shock of humanity will evidently become angry, linked to the revelation of the hidden things of this world, but also the hidden things of cosmogony, but also of the cosmos and the solar system. Many things will appear, at all levels, whether it is at the visual level, at the event level, or at the very level of perceptions, I can say it, new, concerning a gape and concerning the dream itself. It is therefore a form of conscientization that will force you to take out, for some of our brothers and sisters, the head of the hole where they buried it, through denial, to try to perpetuate a certain form of comfort. All this, if you will be revealed to your eyes and your surroundings, that is to say, everything that was hidden, everything that was hidden, everything that was secret, can no longer be. It is a total illumination. That is why I named November black, unlike, or in succession, October red. These words I used are not by chance, but they refer to the different alchemical works that had been evoked before the heavenly weddings, during 2008, by the Archangel Jephiel, whom I invite you to read again, not to reread, but to read through, when he spoke to you of the black work, the red work, the white work, the yellow work. This is exactly what was stated during the year 2008 before the heavenly wedding, and which will today appear clearly to you in its profound meaning, and in the lived experience of your month of November. So I invite you to browse a little bit through what Archangel Jephiel had said, about knowledge and about the alchemical work, because you will find elements of your experience there. There will be a light, as I said, there will be new perceptions of what was hidden, even as close to you as possible, even in you, of things to which you did not have access, which are both a light, as I said, but also a change that I would describe as beneficial somewhere. I remind you that the shock of humanity, as Sri Aurobindo had spoken about it, is first of all denial, then anger, then negotiation, and then acceptance. We can say that this November period will combine both the impossibility of denying what is happening, and at the same time, a form of negotiation for some, but also for many of you who are going through all these processes, even incompletely, will find yourself accepted. Because the counterpart is joy. And many brothers and sisters, who until now have been in denial, will suddenly find themselves in joy, whatever the circumstances, and precisely thanks to the events taking place on the theater stage, but also, as I said, in the cosmos. Whether it is the presence of ships, for example, you know that there are more and more of them, appearing from everywhere, still for some camouflaged if I can say through cloud shapes, but all this is the truth. The circumstances of observing the sky will also change, and I am not talking about the visibility of Napier, although it may happen at any time, but more likely a kind of upheaval in the sky, prior to what had been announced in the Apocalypse of St. John. And regarding the fall, remember what was written, 1/3 of the stars will fall on earth. In Islam, they talk to you about something else. They talk to you about the split moon. All this you will see, really and concretely. This is what will shake the very foundations of society, and I would say the consciousness somewhere collective of the Biosphere. No one can ignore it, even those with their heads in the hole. It will hurt you, it will also make you happy, it will strengthen you in this kind of faith in which you are, even if you are not yet living it. So it's a huge change. And I have not yet spoken of a pole shift, or a planet grid. But I'm talking about discovery or rediscovery more precisely. It is directly related to the intelligence of light, to the illumination of light, and to everything that will therefore be visible, perceptible, felt, within the ephemeral consciousness, within your own life, as well as at the level of society as a whole. You obviously know that the bad boys, the jokers, all those in power, have done everything possible to avoid you thinking about the upheavals, by putting you in the guilt, by saying, but it is man's fault, but it is not man's fault, of course. And that you will be countless on the surface of this earth questioning yourself, but feeling that something huge is being prepared and really happening on the physical plane and on the dense plane. It will take countless turns, if I can say so. It will involve countless structures, countless things, constituting life within the dream. The result, as I said, will be, whatever the chaos, whatever the surprise, an ever clearer joy, ever more established as a certainty. That is to say, you will have a kind of taste of the final event, if I may say so. But it will put you in joy, remember, even those who will be angry. There, just now, we had a sister who talked about experiencing suffering and joy at the same time, but here too, anger will become joy. It will be, if you want, for example, the child who gets angry, you all know that, the child who gets angry, cries and laughs at the same time. He's angry and yet he laughs. It is exactly like that for the collective and for the brothers and sisters, individually. we must not forget that the intelligence of light, electromagnetic rays, cosmic rays, affect the very architecture of your brain, and the very architecture of your subtle body which is still present, but also that body of eternity, the seamless body, the immortal body which is present everywhere, for each of us. So a form of shock, of course, but also, whatever the anger, whatever the upheavals, a great form of awareness, of openness, but also for some of you, for those who have gone through what we talked about in the first part through suffering, we have explained why, a form of resolution there too. And it also corresponds to the propagation of the good news, to the establishment of a gate resonance and network resonance, as I have stipulated, that is, without intention, without posture, without time, that is, as I said, only with the idea, thinking about it, it will be done. This is the real miracle, if you think about it. But everything will be done by the circumstances of the earth and the sky to make you think about it. Anyway, you can't think of anything else, so it's settled. One other thing. Sister, I would like to talk about something that happened to me a dozen years ago, but that maybe other brothers and sisters have also lived. One evening I was at home, it was dark, and suddenly I felt myself disappearing, dissolving, with the lived experience that there was nothing left, I was nothing, and nothing around me, and I was very, very scared, and so I went out walking in the garden. I managed to get out in the garden, because I was wondering what was going on. That's right, it's the antechamber of white paradise. You experienced it for some people a few years ago, too, 12 years ago, but it will happen more and more often, all of a sudden, in a single situation, whatever the circumstances, and it is not a disease, it is not memory disorders, it is not Alzheimer, it also occurs in very young people. All of a sudden, you no longer know who you are, you no longer know what your name is, you no longer know where you are. It can happen to you behind the wheel. These are disappearance processes that already took place a few years ago. We talked about it, but that they will take on such an intensity that you will discover that behind this episode that could have been scary, that today, it will no longer be scary, because as soon as you disappear, whether it is by driving, by not knowing what you call yourself, it can last a few seconds, a few hours, a few days, you will be even more happy, and not in the question. It is indeed part of Black November. So yes, it is called, and you already have many brothers and sisters who live it on different and multiple occasions in this period, without looking for it. That is to say, it is independent of meditations, prayers, sleep, even if you spoke about it earlier, during your dream that you had, that you described to us, but it will fall on you in the most ordinary circumstances. I talked about the driving. It may also be when you take a shower, all of a sudden, you lose track, but without anxiety this time, because it will give way, as I just said, to a feeling of peace and joy. And you even go for brothers and sisters who have never lived anything until now, past the element of surprise, they too will discover this kind of new joy. They will feel this fire of the heart. They will feel the breathing of the heart, and they will know of that moment that, thanks to this event of disappearance which will occur and which occurs with the carrier parts, that you are in joy. That's absolutely true, and it's going to happen from all sides. You'll have family members, your children, your parents around you who will describe this to you, who will show you through pictures, photos, stories that they will make you, that things appear that had never existed before, too. But this element of disappearance of the very meaning, of the very idea of being a person, will contribute precisely to the end, as Eckhart said, of the myth of individuality, and will make you understand and live that, really and concretely. For those who already make a gape it is obvious, but for all those who do not suspect anything, will understand, by living it, that their worst enemy is also in them, and that their son, their husband, their wife, that God as you may still call him, the source, AYOUN are in you, and nowhere else. All creation is in you. The archangels have been serving you for years, telling you, and as we have told you, we're in you, not elsewhere than in you, and there is only you. And in each other, there is only him, and it is the same presence. It goes far beyond for eternity. It is the awareness of the entanglement, the unquenchable and permanent entanglement. At the time, remember, I said, and it was said before me, that when a butterfly's wing broke, the whole universe trembled. You'll see the uniqueness and light, the uniqueness of life. Of course, those who are still arched into retrograde positions by beliefs, especially by adhering to so-called religious egregores, will be destabilized and indeed very angry, but it is the lighting of the light, always. And it will always lead to the same conclusion, no matter what happens, as in the case of certain diseases that we talked about in some of the testimonies, and for certain brothers or sisters. But here, on a much broader and more collective level, which will make the whole of humanity, not only you, as an individual, but what you call the media, TVs, social networks, all your means of communication, will one day wake up, gradually during this month of November, with this question and this question mark. But in the end, what is life? It will put an end more or less quickly and directly to the accession, for those who are still there, to certain beliefs, to certain projections, to certain religions, in order to regain freedom. You can already see it in many peoples on a few continents, where there are revolts, revolutions, where even if it is awkward if you can say so, human beings will no longer be able to bear slavery, predation, taking control over themselves, everything that was, even what you used to call social security, insurance, all this will seem useless, even limiting, even blocking, even if you don't know it or if you don't suspect the rest. It will register you, one way or another, closer and closer to the present moment, and to zero time. One other thing. And it won't be through a stereotypical event. Of course, I talked about planetary cosmic events, but also individual ones. And you will see a form of synchronicity, of synchronization between what you will live inside this body, in your personal consciousness if I can say ordinary, but also in the cosmos and on Earth. Many of you have been making the connection between the Schumann resonance, the primordial resonance frequency of the Earth, and your experiences, according to the modifications, I would say, of this resonance and frequencies, with your brain that is connected to it. It will be the same thing with the events I talked about at the cosmos level, at the moon level, at the location of the planets, at the sun itself and at the moon itself. You will no longer be able to ignore it, even if you do not want to be interested in it, because there will be this total synchronicity between the macrocosm and the microcosm, between the outside and the inside. This is to bring about this famous collective awareness, as I was saying, that you can no longer tolerate enslavement, you can no longer tolerate what has been called, for example, in countless countries, in all modern and even ancient countries, justice. Justice has no morals, it is immoral. All this you will see, you will live it, and you will not be able to escape it, but behind it, remember, at the same time, that behind the anger, there is joy. And this new joy, for many of you who do not live it, from everywhere in the world, will be somewhere there too, the fact of remembering that you are, above all, this heart, this humanity, that you are really and concretely, that we are all in each other, really and concretely. No one can escape it, from any side, from any continent, from any country. This does not mean that it will, of course, concern all of humanity, but I would say a large part of humanity. There will be, the image that comes to me, in a way, it is as if suddenly a question mark appears. No one can avoid this question mark and the deep meaning, that is, what is life, what is my life, what are the priorities? Which are not to respond to society, to societal organization, but to respond to an urgent need, vital if I may say so, to rediscover yourselves, beyond all appearances, beliefs or lives, whatever your life may be. Yes, I called it November Black, but it's also question mark month. So this question mark may be astonishment, a stupor, an anger, a denial. It will be more and more difficult, but in any case, it will raise, at the collective and individual level, a sense of meaning. I did not say an awareness, but a profound question about who you are. It is much more than the complete realization of the oath and promise, but it is the good news, without knowing where it comes from, without reason. As I said, at certain moments you will disappear, even from your identity, even from any consciousness, and you will see, upon return, and whatever the stupor, there is a great joy that is there, a great silence and a great evidence, and the fire of the heart. And that's very important. It will affect people, who until now were, I would say, in charge, whether in the political or financial fields, and who even exercised a form of predation, whatever it may be, because no one will be able to bear that predation anymore. It will become epidermal somewhere. You will no longer tolerate, as is already the case, lying, that things are hidden, that things are suffocated. You will demand the truth and it will be revealed, at all levels. I am talking here about the history of the Earth, not about stellar origins, stellar lines, other dimensions. I am talking to you from here, on the stage, on the dream stage. There will also be a greater sense of responsibility, not responsibility for events, but responsibility for life, for what life is. That is, collectively, a significant part of humanity will discover that they are not their lives, but life, as you have lived here for many of you who are listening or who are present. And that's a big new thing, if you can call it that. That is why in the first part, I also insisted once again on this principle of acceptance. Welcome and crossing, joy will be concomitant, it will be there immediately. The question mark will be replaced by a large WA. It means WA, something great in your lives, in your relationships, in your family itself, with children, with parents, with husband, with friends. A kind of openness, of new sincerity, will be, not obligatory, but spontaneous. For many of you, you will no longer be able to lie to yourself or anyone else. That's what clarity, lucidity is all about. For some of you, you will also be disconcerted to realize that the solution is never in what you project in your mind, in reason or in explanation, but more and more, precisely, in this letting go and this acceptance, that is to say, approaching the zero time, the present moment, even if you have no words for those who are not yet living anything, to put on it. But it will also become evident here, even if there is no answer, the evidence of the lived experience, the evidence of the instant, and that's what goes with Black November. One other thing. Brother, I was born in November, and at the end of November, I will undertake an exhibition, precisely in search of meaning. What would be the impact of this decision on what I want to do later and what I don't yet know? It will simply give you the meaning, and that this meaning, you will understand that it is not born of an interrogation or a projection, but of an understanding by the lived experience itself of what you have just said. It is by living it that you will understand it. So there is no point in asking you now, or anticipating the answer, because you have to wait until you live it in the matter, in concrete terms, for the meaning to appear to you. Meaning, your search for meaning, will disappear, because you will be the meaning of what you are looking for. And it will illuminate in an incredible way. What I perceive in your questioning is that your life is a perpetual quest for meaning, for alliance if I can say so, for resonance too, through what you do, what you are. Well, it will be clear to you when you do what you are going to do at the end of November, and you were born, you said so yourself in November. It's already written, you've already written it, so it's also the good news for you. There will indeed be, for you and for everyone, as I said, a clear change in the perception of the meaning of life, the meaning of your life, and the meaning of what life is, what light is, what creation is, and what the creation is. Since creation has never existed, it has only passed through. So it is also rediscovery regardless of the good news, somewhere, of the fact that you are all eternal, before creation, before the light and before form. It is your personal itinerary that is being modeled and will be modeled for everyone as I said, with the collective itinerary, that is, the movement of the Earth around the Sun, for example. And so, what will happen in the cosmos, what will happen on Earth, in society as a whole, through this collective consciousness, with this famous question mark that will lead to you and many others, through the end of the search for meaning, and through a great burst of laughter, because you will understand that it is yourself, simply by living it. There is no point in enlightening it now, as you yourself said, it's an act, your birthday, of course, because it falls at that moment, and what you're undertaking as a journey you've just mentioned. So of course, it can give, how to say, in relation to what I say, but also in relation to what you may already be living, a certain form, not of apprehension, but of stage fright, a little like the artist who is about to enter the stage for the first time, and who has sweats, palpitations, stage fright. But this stage fright will be accompanied, as I said, by a great joy, the joy of rediscovering yourself, as a living person, and not only as your life. That is what will happen for you, and that will happen, as I said, perhaps not for all humanity, but everywhere, that is to say, no one will be able to ignore it, Even if he claims to be exempt from it, there will no longer be any possible denial, there can be a negotiation. But you will understand later or during this month, that it finally leads thereto to the fourth phase of the shock of humanity which, I remind you, was already named by Sri Aurobindo, acceptance. For who can refuse the gift of love? Who can refuse the gift of grace? Who can refuse to remember what he is, who puts an end to all questioning, who pacifies, who puts in joy and who fluidifies, especially when there is this kind of synchronism of which I spoke, between the cosmos, the macrocosm and the microcosm, between the outside and the inside. You will discover yourself connected, you will indeed discover each other, but you will discover yourself as a being of reliance and resonance that has always been there, and that simply the circumstances of life, which are called the theatre stage, the dream of creation, but also the simulacrum, will be replaced by the sacred, for many of you. You will therefore have an inner clarity, if you can call it that, a new perception, a new understanding, but you will understand that it is absolutely not intellectual, and that it does not depend on a choice, on any reason, but it will be an evidence. What seemed impossible to you the instant before, will become the only truth. So it's pretty cheerful, isn't it? One other thing. So there are some people who are spinning, her. It's the surprise cover. It is more indeed, I spoke of shock but it is more, not a stupor, but a surprise, yes, in every sense of the word, something that erupts into the very field of consciousness, into the very field of life, with for some perhaps, a feeling of urgency certainly, in the face of certain situations or certain experiences, but as joy will be there, it will put you in sweetness, in patience, and in acceptance, in the aftermath, not in the month of November, but in the immediate aftermath. You will understand, you will make aware, if I may say so, of the uselessness of suffering, the uselessness of the trial, the total uselessness of enslavement, whether by a husband, a wife, a religious or by anything. A thirst for new freedom for those who are not yet arriving. One other thing. Sister, everyone is asleep, I think. What? Sister, everyone is asleep. Reactions in the room. Sister. Oh, I said that to make it hot. Oh, it's very hot, yes, you can see that. Sister, there is something that surprises me, good for you. Sister, right now, it's the way our lives fit together. It is the first steps of the, sister, stupid things, for example, I regularly forget things and then I don't see, but next to it, there will be someone who will see it, and who will tell me or manifest it. It is called service to others, or service to others, and it is done on its own, even without knowing it. It is also the beginning of what I said, when you discover that, for those who are not yet living it, you are completely in each other, and that the whole creation is in your heart, and nowhere else. It's part of the same process, of course. Sister, yes, it looks a little bit like a music score where we are therefore, I don't know, like a musical note. Absolutely, it is the establishment of the agape network and the agape resonance, not only between some, but what I have also called the good news that is accessible to everyone, regardless of their initial position. This is also the element of surprise, or even stupor or amazement in some cases. But it is spontaneously resolvable by joy. Many of you, who know none of this, have certainly heard around you brothers and sisters, who suddenly, without knowing why, feel this evidence of joy. Yet their lives are not necessarily joyful, but the joy is there anyway. Sister, it is like a silent joy. It is also the great silence, of course. The need for interiority, silence also allows acceptance, the crossing, because in silence, you know that you are complete. In silence, there is no reaction, there is welcome. Remember that you have nature to recharge your batteries, in moments that may be a little tiring, of this surprise or events of any kind. Somewhere more and more generally, even if it is not totally collective, many of you will, from the beginning of November and throughout the month, feel this inner silence, this naked joy, to need to return if I can say to your home, within you, and to abandon it, there too, the games of power, the games of seduction, the games of conviction, because you will grasp it by living it at that moment, that the question mark finds its solution only in your heart, and nowhere else, and especially not in the usual circumstances of life. One other thing. Brother, There is a shooting star that came by earlier. Do you have an explanation? It's a spinning star. I remind you that what you call Michael, Archangel Michael, had perfectly explained it, that his representation was meteorites, everything that passes through the sky, but also shooting stars, stardust, meteorites. It is the manifestation, the concreteness, if you can say so, of Archangel Michael, at least visible to you in this dimension. You know very well that more and more meteorites are being discovered, even crashing into the earth, even if they are small for the moment, nevertheless they are being found. There are some every day. The shooting star, in all traditions, in all stories, is something that is announced, of course. You are told that it is a good omen when you see it, that you have to make a wish, and that it is present everywhere. Yes, because a shooting star, this light that passes very quickly, whatever the physical and concrete reality, is, above all, the eruption of something surprising, there too, even if we all know that. Many things, I repeat, will be visible in the sky. And again, I'm not talking about Nibiru, even if its visibility can occur at any time, but I'm not talking about Nibiru. I'm talking about the consequences of zero time, the good news. One other thing. Sister. For some time now, and maybe the microphone too. Sister, for some time now, I have had a child's joy in me, a huge joy, and I am a child in wonder. And yet I've passed the age, but they say that when you get older sometimes you become a child again, and I don't even know how to tell you, because I live it, but I don't mind it, but I always want to laugh, always want to sing, that's it, and nothing matters to me, except when my husband makes me walk, and I don't understand. That's it, all right. And then I get angry. Laughter. But I think you'll still be worried if you put your thumb in your mouth and you need diapers. Laughter. But it is the way of innocence and childhood, yes, finding the inner child, whether you call it that or not, it is also part of the rewinding of the film. Nizar had said, remember what you were, and bring up, not wounds and memories, but the state you were when you were a little child. That's exactly what it is. Sister. And but it's so strong, that at times I think to myself, but I'm going to burst. This is exactly the case. Laughter. Sister. And last year I was skiing, and I was going down a slope then at full speed, because I had this child's joy. I was a child who was going down and getting a huge joy, and I thought, but at my age I might break all the bones, me, if I dive, well, but it was well placed. Anyway, you will be so much in the authenticity of what you are experiencing, as I said, that the others look no longer matters. Because beyond the surprise also for the one who sees it, that is to say, this elderly character who behaves like a baby or a child, beyond the surprise, does not forget that there is a presence that is there, that there is the heart fire, that there is a gate that is there and that emanates from you, even if it bothers the other. So don't worry about the other person's eyes. Be true and authentic with yourself first and foremost. Don't cheat, and besides, you can't cheat anymore. As I said, you can no longer lie to yourself or anyone else. It's over, the arrangements, the innuendo, the hidden things. You will no longer be able to wear the mask of your role, of your function. You can no longer be identified with a dress code or a function in society, in your life, in your family and in your profession. You will be identified with yourself and no longer with the person's mask. And it will be something that is already imperative for some of you. You cannot compromise with the truth. Now you are the truth. There is no consideration, what will people think of me? It will disappear, because you will be in this famous spontaneity, in this famous evidence of who you are and what you are living. It is the way of childhood, the way of innocence, there is no other way. It has been explained for years, in length, breadth and depth, through the principles of humility, simplicity, ethics, integrity. These are the four pillars of the heart, but live now, even within the ephemeral, in almost all the circumstances of your lives. You will no longer be able to compromise or cheat or negotiate with that. It will indeed be something so compelling in you, that you will only be able to accept it, you will not be able to curb it, and you will become more and more spontaneous for many of you. And as our sister said earlier, you forget something but another brother, in the sense of service, even if he doesn't know he is in service, will do it to you afterwards. And don't forget, as I also said, to think about agape. Put agape in front by looking at a child, talking to your wife, your child, your tax director, and you will see that everything will be solved. There is no solution, there is no way to escape the solution by agape, even in causes you might call desperate. It is the action of the intelligence of the light, it is the healings that also appear, simply by thinking, as I explained in the practice of agape, and as Eber have said, the practice without practice, it will happen alone, from the moment you think about it, without intention and without will, like an idea that passes through you. The other will be instantly touched by your gaze, by your presence, but also simply by your thoughts, without any intention, simply. It means that thinking about the other is already resonating with him agape, and it is already conscious that he is in you. That's what I was explaining. But it will happen, not only at the level of individuals, but I said it, at the level of countries, at the level of the total entanglement of life, even in cases where the interests, economic, political, religious or other, are completely opposed. Because if I can say, we're all in the same boat, it's an expression, we're all in the same boat, some would say, it depends on the point of view there too. If you look at one side, it is a wonderful vessel of light, on the other side, it is a galley. The choice is yours. But you have no choice, I assure you. It is very reassuring not to have a choice, even if it may seem impossible for the ordinary conscience. These are the discussions we had had for years, the difference between free will which belongs to duality, good and evil, and true freedom which sees good and evil, but which transcends all this by simply positioning love. You will notice that agape love will act on its own, without you, on all the circumstances of your lives. It's like before sister who forgets something, and another brother or sister reminds her. This is what we called at the time the fluidity of the unit, synchronicity or ultra-synchronicity. And you will see that you no longer depend on time. The whole society wants you to be time-dependent. All life in this world wants to make you depend on time. But you will no longer be subject to time, neither the passing of time, since you will become like children again, in this innocence and spontaneity, nor anything else. You will no longer be subject to time. You will no longer tolerate being subjected, I would say, not only to predation, but to everything that makes life in society. You will not become a pariah or someone who will exclude himself, you will not become a marginal or a hermit, but all this will be seen clearly. Again, it doesn't concern the whole of humanity, but I would say a large part of us. It is the evidence of agape, the evidence of love, despite all the circumstances to the contrary, that will prevail. And I would even say, not only in spite of, but thanks to these opposite events, that I have named the anger of the child who laughs at the same time, who cries and laughs. You will only be able to see it. This will lead to a form of relaxation, but also for others among you who are not yet living it, of acceptance. Remember what was said many years ago and repeated many times, there are only two laws in the universe, action-reaction and action of grace, where everything is mystical, where everything is joy, where everything is light. This is what many of you will discover, independently of everything that may have existed before, as vibrations, as perceptions, as opening of chakras, gates, stars, vibratory experiences or expansion of consciousness. That is to say, at that moment, you cannot, as has been explained, again, in recent years, you can only recognize yourself. You can only find yourself. Everything you want to maintain out of habit, out of certainty, out of security, out of holding on to, will disappear. This will free you, no matter how stupefied or amazed or surprised you are at the moment. Also, you will find that you will no longer be able to judge any situation whatsoever, you will no longer be able to judge yourself, you will no longer be able to judge anyone, you will only be able to welcome and love them, even if today it still seems to you perhaps so distant or so far-fetched for those who do not live it. You cannot avoid the truth. You have an appointment with the truth, you wrote it, we programmed it, that's the good news. Not only the work we have done together, I have been speaking for the elders for many years, not only your inner discipline, your inner questions, but on a much broader, global level, even if it is not all of humanity. There will be direct and stunning realizations. Brother, can you tell us what proportion? You told us that it was about us and a part of humanity. And the other part? Yes, of course. Root of pi multiplied by x divided by 2. Laughter. Sister, our brother asks how many is that? I'll let you do the math. Brother, it's not about organic portals, actually. Oh, no, not at all. Brother, there you go. And there are many of them. Yes, there are many of them, of course. Brother, but you don't meet many of them, I don't see any. You won't find any more here in the dating world. Sister, there have been some. There were, of course, some, a very long time ago, there was systematically an organic portal. But now it's over. They can't stand the warm-up you're going through here anymore. Love is everywhere in this room. It's hot, isn't it? The head, the heart, the back. For the moment there is no smoke, so it's fine. Sister, the back, as if it was suffering. Sister, the back is as if it is suffering. Sister, no, that it was opening. Yes, it's the wings that spread. The wings are not a view of the mind, it is in your body of eternity. We have often said that we were angel before we were man. You're the angels, too. Sister, our brother asks, what is the body of eternity? Brother, no, code of eternity. Sister, the body of eternity. Brother, oh, the body. The body of eternity is the body of light, the seamless body, the immortal body, the body of light if you prefer. There are subtle bodies, the physical body, the etheric body which is the double, the energetic body, the astral or emotional body, the mental body, the causal body, and after that, there is what is in tradition, which has been called the Buddhist body and the Atmas body or the divine body if you prefer, which has been called in the Bible, I believe, the seamless body. It's a body, it's a form. An archangel is in his body of light, he has no physical body or etheric body, no astral body, no mental body, no even a causal body, and yet you can see them. Some of them have seen them, really. It is this body where the light is not outside like certain iconographic representations, where we represent, for example, the halo of saints. This is a projected light. The true light is inner, it is what is called a body of light, it is your eternal body, which served as a vehicle for you to reach this earth, since time immemorial, and which was present from the beginning, which was released from the sun during the year and after the celestial weddings, that is, after the years 2009, with the precipitation of the true light which was called the adamantine light, and the Ignateva in the Ayurvedic teachings, which is this seamless body, this flawless body. The particularity of this body is that the light is not on the outside, it is made up of light. The light is therefore within the form, whereas in the representations, in any case on this world, the light is perceived as external. Any other things? Brother, the external light that we see is not the radiation of the bodies that are inside and not the bodies themselves that we distinguish on the outside. The radiation of the subtle bodies, which are, as you say, inside, in this world can radiate outside. This is called, for example, the halo of saints. But this light is a projected light. And in addition, altered by the confinement. A body of light is a body of light, the light constitutes this body. Therefore, the radiation of the subtle bodies has nothing to do with the body of light. In one case, it is a reflected, radiated light that goes from the inside to the outside. While we can say that in the body of light or the body of eternity, light is contained in the form. It has nothing to do with photons, it has nothing to do with the speed of light, it has nothing to do with what we call, in incarnation, light, whether it is from the light bulb or the Sunday light, and that we explained at length, is cosmic radiation, it is gamma radiation, and you know very well that gamma radiation is very uncomfortable with the carbonaceous body, that is, with the body of suffering. The body of light is a body of gamma radiation. But this radiance is not turned outwards, it concerns the form, it is eternal, the source and the heart, of course. You have some films, I think, where you have this representation of what is called the Lohims. They are beings of pure light, but you are anterior to the pure light, you're anterior to the manifestation. That's the stupor, the surprise and the good news. One other thing. Brother, how can we be aware of these different bodies? Only by joy. the different bodies, who cares now, even the etheric body, the energetic body. Many of you here have gone through the perception of energy, chakras, meridians, nadi, and you no longer need. You know that what is called the planetary astral has been dissolved. Your subtle bodies of course are still there. But the body of light, which is resynthesized after being freed from the sun where it was enclosed, softens any physical body. That's why for many years, many of you have felt the wings pushed in your back, to feel a real beak. For example, if you have a stellar line of altar origin, for example. Others felt with dolphin fins. It is the truth, it is your body of original eternity, this famous body of light. Others ended up with bodies of Elohim, others of Nephilim, etc. etc. It is the immortal body, as described in the scriptures, the body of glory also, it is named. But you do not need today, as I say, to become aware of these subtle bodies. Many of you have experienced the openness to this perception for many decades, among some of you who are here today. But you who discover, you don't need that. The only testimony given by the presence of what you are, is joy, with possibly this heat, this consummation that you feel now, which can take you as well in the middle of the chest, as in what is called the crown of the head, as in the back. That's all. That's all. It will change your perception of yourself, it will change and transform what is called consciousness, and move you from consciousness to supra-consciousness, which is the expansion phase, with a later phase that is sacrifice, which corresponds to the heart of the heart and the zero time, to the famous black light, or to the black hole if you prefer. The only way today to live it is to give yourself. To give yourself to who or what, to yourself, to life, to what you are that you may not yet know. Not in the identity of your history, of this body, of this form, of this life. That's what we've been saying for years. You're not your life, your space, since there's no one there. There is first of all unity, one in the other, and then, and simultaneously now, the discovery that all this has only gone through, and that each of us will never go through, but not through this form, nor through any world, through any purgatory, any hell, from no paradise. These are projections of the human being, which have been, perhaps at some given useful moments in history, a little like safeguards if I can say, but which today can no longer be validated by your lived experience of naked joy, without object, for no reason. One other thing. You also have the right to get tired of it, if you need to get somewhere. I think I spoke to you anyway for quite a while, we exchanged for a long time, and as you can see, it's very hot. It is not I who do it, it is you, because you were there, because you listen, because you are simply present. This is the consummation of love. Naked joy, as I say, no longer cares about tomorrow, or yesterday, or perception, or vision, or vibration. She's free of all this. Are you perhaps tired of it? We can also consume ourselves in silence. This is the perfect opportunity to be there, as you are attentive, and to have the agape idea. You don't even have to say or think about anyone here. It takes up all the space. There is nothing to do, there is nothing to feel, there is just to welcome. Brother, what does it mean to embrace? It means nothing more than what it means in the actual definition of the word. To embrace is to put oneself somewhere in the position of embracing, that is, to stop at nothing, to embrace the other in one's heart, to embrace everything that is present in one's heart. That's welcoming, like when you welcome a guest, like when you welcome a child or a parent you haven't seen in a long time in your home, it's the same thing. You embrace what is, even if you don't know what is, but it's there, without asking yourself questions, without putting in front of the need to understand, without putting in front of the need to feel. That's how you are available for the moment. That's all. There is no need to conceptualize, because welcoming through your brain, in your brain, has a precise meaning, which activates certain functions. At the time, we named, I remind you, the stars, here and now, for example, on each side of the head, the stars attraction, vision, repulsion, clarity, unity. To be available is to be there without asking for anything, without waiting for anything, without defining anything, without seeking anything, without hoping for anything, simply being there. To embrace is to embrace. The same way you welcome a gift or presents. It is not only opening your arms to hug the family member, it is welcoming, it is opening your heart. Besides, welcoming opens the heart. And when you welcome, there is a unification that takes place. You lose the notion of time, the notion of distance. There is only this presence, where love is lived, which does not depend on an effect, a feeling, that we call agape. Do not even seek the meaning of agape. Do not pronounce it verbally now. Just think, without projecting anything, even if you do not know the meaning. Agape, and that's all, and that's it. It fills the whole space, all our presences. Another question or something else? Sister, it seems there are no more questions. So it may be time to let yourself get some fresh air, to warm up or cool down, as you wish. As for me, I will transmit all my blessings to you, and I will leave you tomorrow with Bida to warm even more. And I say to you, as for me, a great thank you, and I transmit to you all my blessings, all my love, and I say to you, as usual, see you soon. All. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Through Jean-Luc Young. The Transformations. English translation, LMF.